Oh boy. And Orwell's clear, concise storytelling has helped generations of readers look more closely at the words of their own governments. Animal Farm structure eschews the concept of main character, focusing instead on how the story's events literally Literature gives us the opportunity to experience lives, perspectives, and worlds different from our own. Though remember, friend, a good story has many readings, and this is but one. The animals at Manor Farm are rejoicing in the success of their revolution, though you have some serious doubts that anything will get any better. Because if there's one thing you've learned, it's that life will go on as it always has, that is, badly. So you stay out of politics, even as the pigs take control of the farm, until they sell your horse friend to a glue factory. But now, is it too late? Benjamin the donkey may be cynical, but he's also one of the only animals that clearly sees what's happening in George Orwell's allegorical political novel, Animal Farm. Now, Zoe and I can see that you're clearly not familiar with the book, which is perfectly fine, because we love to share this story with folks. Isn't that right, bud? Up top! Let's show this guy what our 6 legs can do. Thanks so much to Factor for keeping us well fed fast. So you haven't read Animal Farm by George Orwell. Luckily, or unluckily for you really, it seems to always be the perfect time to check it out. While the original target of this satirical allegory was the Soviet Union, the central theme of how political propaganda can manipulate the opinion of the people is, sadly, evergreen. Oh boy. And Orwell's clear, concise storytelling has helped generations of readers look more closely at the words of their own governments. Animal Farm structure eschews the concept of main character, focusing instead on how the story's events impact the whole population of farm animals. Furthermore, each character in Animal Farm serves as a symbol. For example, Napoleon, the brutal leader of the farm, represents Joseph Stalin, while Boxer, the self-sacrificing horse, stands for the Russian laborers. And while each species of animals illustrates a different group of humans, Orwell's sympathy is clearly with the oppressed animals, only a few of whom survive till the end. But you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. You are Benjamin, an old, cynical donkey. And if life at Manor Farm has taught you anything, it's that life is pretty awful. Oh, sure, I mean, you have some friends, including your BFF Boxer the workhorse, but everyone knows you're always just on the cusp of going full Eeyore. So when a pig named Old Major summons all of the farm animals to the big barn to share a vision of a better future, you're pretty doubtful. Old Major explains how the humans have been exploiting the animals, and that if they could only just stand united, they could overthrow their farmer. Now, Old Major dies shortly thereafter, but his words inspire a trio of his fellow pigs, Napoleon, Snowball, and Squealer, to take up his mantle and devise a new philosophy called animalism. There are 7 major tenets of this new ideology, mostly aimed at uniting the animals and avoiding the failings of humans. Nice words, but when have words ever changed the revolution happened? Geez, that was fast. The pigs then try to teach the rest of the animals how to read, but only a few are able, including yourself. In fact, many of the animals are actually having a hard time grasping the several central tenets of animalism. So to make things easier, Squealer reduces the whole philosophy to 4 legs.
Last player standing. One enemy
Last
remaining.
guy drop.
One enemy remaining.
Four legs good, 2 legs bad. The sheep in particular like to go around shouting this all day, in fact. Also, the pigs themselves are having a bit of a power struggle. Snowball, a well-respected hero for his work defending the farm, has committed himself to truly involving all of the animals in governing this place. On the other hand, you have Napoleon, who is focused on consolidating power for himself. This comes to a head at a meeting to discuss Snowball.
Hi!
Uy, si Crush.
Pwedeng...
Sabay ka? Tara!
Actually, pwedeng akin na lang yung fee.
Что? Нет минут? Тревога! Тревога!
Что за тревога? В чем причина? Исчезли несколько минут.
Немедленно надо их найти нам.
Беда! А ну как не найду? Не заблудились ли едва ли? Кошмар! Куда же они пропали? Бегу искать. Я за сестрой.
Назад! Сейчас же встаньте в строй. Приказ минутам. По сигналу вам всем лететь во весь опор, искать, во что бы то ни стало найти сестер. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, старт!
Искать задача нелегка. Найдем! Найдем! Наверняка! Пока я очень беспокоюсь.
Отставить! Продолжайте поиск.
Стоит проблема перед всеми. Как с пользой сэкономить время? Не торопясь обсудим метод. Как сберегать минуты впредь? Вопрос настолько важен этот, что времени нечего жалеть.
Спасите нас! Сюда! Друзья! Мы тонем! Погибаем!
Погибли.
Погибли. А болтун здоров, имеет должность, стаж и опыт, и в ливне бесполезных слов минуты дорогие топит. Да, я. Докладывайте, что там?
Минут загублено без счета.
Не разберу, в чем тут беда.
Глядите с пристальней сюда.
Что создано народом в год, пьянчуга портит за минуту. Плохой конец лентяев ждет. Жизнь обойдется с ними круто.
Ага, сигнал. Еще один.
Настройтесь четче. Поглядим. Минута, что людям так дорога, убита, растоптана, смята. У нашего времени нет врага опаснее бюрократа. Всем, кто мешает народным делам, не скрыться в тиши в сторонке, не засорит омерзительный хлам наших часов шестеренки. Великой программы любая строка нас вверх поднимает круто, и четко работает на века сегодняшняя минута. Минута, и город в пустыне встает, и новое море родится, и к дальним планетам уходит в полет с земли краснозвездная птица. Десятки домов новоселам даны, все нужное для уюта. Дорога из ткани длиной до луны.
Вот что такое минута.
Творит наш народ, могучий велик, дела небывалой красы. Товарищи, дорог нам каждый миг. Проверьте ваши часы.
So, why use Grammarly over ChatGPT? Well, Grammarly offers expert writing suggestions versus something generic that everyone gets while you type in real time. No need to copy paste. You can use it across 100,000 apps and websites. It's not just a spelling or grammar checker. Grammarly is an AI writing tool that helps you in
Literature gives us the opportunity to experience lives, perspectives, and worlds different from our own. Though
Der Mensch ist ohne Unterschied heut seines eigenen Glückes Schmied. Der Dummkopf lebt in Saus und Braus und wirft sein Geld zum Fenster raus. Des Spielers Trieb ist grenzenlos und er verliert sein ganzes Moos. Auch sture Schufterei allein kann nicht der Sinn des Lebens sein. Doch dieser hier, der hat kapiert, wie man im Leben avanciert. Denn Mark um Mark bringt er zur Bank und Zinsen erntet er zum Dank. Sein Sparbuch ist's, auf das er baut und dem er felsenfest vertraut. Seht, Auto, Möbel, Urlaubsfahrt kann nur sich leisten, wer gespart. Ja, er ist heute fein heraus und wohnt sogar im eigenen Haus. Die Lehre gilt für jedermann, mit Sparen fängt der Wohlstand an.
I love Lego. It's amazing. It was a huge part of my childhood growing up, and even today as an adult, I still buy them because I really love collecting minifigures, and come on, let's be honest, we're all just after the Lego Seinfeld figure. Because of the Lego company's large sphere of influence around the world, I know that I'm not alone in my passion for Lego, and I bet if you're watching this, you've had it impact your life in one form or another at any time in your life, and hey, maybe in the future as well. Today, I thought I'd combine my love for LEGO with my fascination of lost media, so I've compiled 10 pieces of lost media regarding such. So, with that being said, sit back, relax, grab a snack, start building something cool, and get cozy, because today, we're talking about 10 lost pieces of LEGO media. Number 10. Various online stop-motion animations. This one is pretty mild, mainly in the sense of it not being strictly from LEGO, but media that utilizes the product for their content. If you've been in the LEGO scene on YouTube or Instagram or maybe even TikTok, then you know that LEGO stop-motion animations are pretty common among the community. I threw this into the list mainly because of how prevalent and impactful LEGO stop-motion content has been to the LEGO scene on the internet. When I was doing research for this video, I searched up LEGO related posts on the Lost Media subreddit, and I was pretty surprised to see that there were multiple posts from different channels, videos, and so on regarding LEGO stop motion. Now, I don't touch internet lost media all that often because I honestly don't know where to start with that kind of stuff, and not all of it appeals to me. But this piqued my interest because I used to have that same spark of fascination with the genre, and even attempted to make my own LEGO stop motion stuff, all of which were horrible because I was 14 at the time and had no idea what I was doing. So that was fun. There's not really any specific time frames for deleted LEGO stop-motion videos. Some might have gone down because of copyright, some might have gone down because the creator wanted it to, who knows at this point. As far as finding some of these videos, the only way to go about it would be by reaching the people who animated them, and even then, if the channels are down, it's gonna be hard as all heck to contact these creators. You also have to consider that there are a lot of different channels, and some of them may have created hundreds of videos and may not have saved them all on a personal device or cloud or whatever. If you're interested in LEGO stop motion stuff and lost media, definitely go check out the post about it on the Lost Media subreddit. It provides a good number of channels or videos, and hey, maybe you may remember some of it. Regardless, it's a good place to start looking if you're interested in searching. Number 9. Number 9. Ninjago voice auditions. So, LEGO Ninjago is one of LEGO's best-selling non-licensed action themes. I'm a big Ninjago fan myself, and wow, did the ending of Seabound really tear me up inside. So if you're familiar with the voice acting world, or hey, maybe in the acting world in general, most actors whose agents find them a gig need to attend, or in this case record, an audition. For example, the name of the character is given, along with the show, and a few lines to read off of. Ninjago is no different. In fact, a good portion of the auditions of the show's voice team have actually been shown on YouTube. Brent Miller, the voice actor of the white Nindroid Master of Ice Zane, has a YouTube channel which has showcased various auditions for characters, such as Vincent Tong's audition for Kai and Kirby Morrow's audition for Ren, who would soon become Jay, with that part going to Michael Adamwaite. Kirby Morrow would later go on to get the role of Cole, the Earth Ninja. However, some of the voice auditions haven't been released. There are still very important characters who have yet to have their auditions shown off. Then you have the villains for each season, which no public recordings of the Pythor audition, the Overlord audition, Moro, Harumi, and so on. Also, you have secondary characters like Dareth. Plus, the only ones who we have heard are people who actually got the role. What about the others who auditioned? Obviously, we would need the consent of the people recording to even have those released, but as far as I know, Tommy Andresen, one of the creative minds behind Ninjago, actually has those recordings. He had also sent them to Brent Miller in hopes that he would use them on his YouTube channel. I gotta say, the most interesting thing I find about these auditions are the uses of the draft names. When I say draft names, I'm referring to the names of the characters before they were made official. For example, Jay was originally written as Ren. In the audition Vincent Tong recorded for Kai, you can hear him referring to a character named Aya. This character would soon go on to become Nia, Kai's sister. You could also hear him mention Lord Demic, who would become Lord Garmadon. The whole pre-production part of Ninjago is so interesting, and these recordings are considered lost in the sense of some of them being available and the dates which they were recorded. You could have something from 2010 for an original audition for one of the four ninja, or you could have something as recent as 2019 or 2020 for an audition for a character from The Island or Seabound or whatever's next. Still though, these recordings remain lost until they are completely released. Number 8. The LEGO Batman Movie 2. So, the LEGO Batman movie, that was something. I actually remember seeing this in theaters when it came out, and wow, was it different from the original LEGO movie. It provides the story of Batman getting a sidekick, his connection with Robin, and of course, we get the Joker. LEGO Batman was one of those well-performing themes, and I'm saying was here because I honestly don't know the last time I saw a LEGO Batman set that wasn't directly related to Justice League or the movie. I actually remember playing the LEGO Batman video game on my DS Lite as well, so those were good times. Needless to say, the success was enough to get this theme a movie. The movie, released in 2017, has acquired a rating of 7.3 out of 10 stars on IMDb. It had great marketing with the toys, people were excited for a new Batman on the screen, and wow, it was just fantastic for its fans. And thus, planning was made for a sequel movie. The sequel, which had the title of LEGO Super Friends, was written by Dan Harmon and Michael Waldron. As you can guess by the title, the movie was supposed to feature the Justice League, and specifically focus on Batman's opinion on Superman. This would continue the Batman development that was started in the first movie, which focused on his connection with Robin. It would undoubtedly focus on Batman coming out of his shell and probably being annoyed at first with the Super Friends, then warming up to the idea of the group. The project would have expanded the whole cinematic LEGO DC universe, so there's no doubt that the project would have been quite ambitious. If you don't know who the writers are, allow me to give you one quick example of work from each writer. Dan Harmon is a co-creator of Adult Swim's Rick and Morty. Michael Waldron is the producer and writer for Loki. So there's definitely a bunch of creativity going on between these two minds. The cover of the screenplay is the only available media that we have of the movie, which you can see both.
By continually asking how, we're optimizing our drilling, exploration, and reservoir mapping operations to streamline processes.
Another day, asking how.
Another day we
Caffè.
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 Caffè. Espresso macchiato caldo.
Decaffeinato bollente e poca schiuma.
Molto lungo, tiepido in tazza grande.
Caffè d'orzo macchiato freddo, doppio zucchero.
Ristretto semifreddo in tazza piccola senza schiuma.
Americano corretto grappa con latte doppia panna, tazza a parte.
Hello?
Pronto?
La palla in area, tiro, gol!
The end is near. I can feel it. Well, I believe this infection will be my ultimate demise. It has helped me understand the connections of all the events that has led us to this place. The connection between the original crippling worldwide infection and a terrorist organization known as SMITE. The connection between SMITE and the Exin, an alien species bent on human decimation and enslavement. The connection between the Exin and Krozox, the hive mind with ultimate control over the infected. And finally, the connection between the hive mind and myself, which grows stronger every day. And now, here we are, deep beneath the surface of the planet that is home to the hive mind's brain. I do not know how this day will end. I find it unlikely that I will live to find out.
The coast appears to be clear.
You know, this isn't as bad as what I was expecting.
Oh, holy
Everyone fire!
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Gerald, pull yourself together. If we don't succeed, Matt's death will have been in vain.
You mean that wasn't the brain?
No. Run!
Oh my god, they got what's her name?
Come on, Russ. We gotta keep moving.
Keep going. I'll hold them up.
How exactly?
I have many programs. Overkill mode activated.
What?
Come on, let's go.
Stop what you are doing. Get inside.
Not yet. We have to hurry. Russ, Joe, stay behind. If anything starts coming down that hallway, you have to stop it.
Yes, sir. You're, not gonna complain?
Yeah, that kinda threw me off for a second.
Now is not the time. Go!
Oh no.
It's a trap!
No, it's a trick. It knows we're close. Oh, God.
Look, man, whatever happens, I'm glad I met you guys when this all started. Me too, man. We've had a good run. Yeah, we have. Well, if I'm going down fighting! Oh, dear. Alright. Did ya miss me? Shit, yeah, we did!
That is the brain.
Okay, how do we destroy it?
How about the old-fashioned way?
My essence has almost consumed you. There is no use delaying the inevitable. Your will is wrong. But even now, your body is beginning to decay, and my being is taking its place. You think you can hide it all under that suit of metal. Your time has come.
Oh no, you don't.
Oh my God!
I can't fight it much longer. Run!
Slade.
Gerald, we have to go.
The General? How did you get here? It's a long story for another time. Where's Slade?
It's a long story for another time. We need to go now.
Ending this.
Is it over? You might say that. But for us, it's only just the beginning.
The former nation of Yugoslavia had one of the most vibrant and creative animation industries and had a lasting influence on global animation. Yugoslavian animation was intentionally very different from the dominant Disney style, usually not realistic, and often for adults with violence or nudity. It was frequently cynical, full of dark humor, and dealt with societal issues. There was a thematic emphasis on the little man or everyday person being alienated by society. Absurdism and surrealism were common, as was a minimalist, limited animation style. Yugoslavian animation was almost entirely shorts, with only a few feature-length films, and these shorts were mostly dialogue-free in order to have international appeal. The vast majority of Yugoslavian animation came from the Zagreb Film Studio, and they mostly focused on traditional cell animation, with little use of techniques like stop motion or puppetry. However, animators did create some mixed media works with collages or inclusion of photographs or live-action footage. Zagreb Film's inspirations included the American studio UPA, which was popular in the 1940s and 50s and created famous characters like Mr. Magoo and Gerald McBoing Boing, as well as Czechoslovakian animators like Jiří Trinka. Yugoslavian animators were also influenced by avant-garde painting, specifically movements like constructivism and cubism. Music was also very important to Zagreb Film's animation. Composer Tomislav Simovic worked on many of the most important short films and created scores that incorporated elements from jazz and experimental music. There was a bit of animation made in the years before Zagreb Film, like the popular 1951 black and white short The Great Meeting, that spoke to the dangers of propaganda and included anthropomorphic trains with faces. 3 years later, the first color cartoon was completed, an adaptation of Little Red Riding Hood. Then in 1956, Zagreb Film opened its cartoon studio. The history of the studio is usually divided into 3 waves of new filmmakers, with the first wave taking place approximately from 1957 to 1964. One of the most important filmmakers of that first wave was Vatroslav Mimica. His 1958 dialogue-free short called The Loner won an award at Venice Film Festival, which was the first international prize Zagreb Film received. Presented in a flattened perspective and chaotic style, the short tells the story of a lonely clerk alienated by the oppressive modern world. His emotionless coworkers turn into gears and cogs in a machine, and eventually the gears crush him. Mimica disregards realism with things like cars with no visible passengers that drive on invisible roads, and at one point numbers and letters appear on the screen in a seemingly random way. Things get even weirder when we enter the man's dreams, where he morphs and multiplies himself, turning into an almost abstract pattern. Mimica's next short, titled At the Photographers, features a photographer trying to get a man to smile. It is mixed media in that it uses real photographs. Realism is again abandoned since characters stretch, flatten, and multiply themselves in impossible ways. Also from the late 50s is The Inspector Comes Home, which incorporates real photos and newspapers. The plot consists of a police inspector chasing his own fingerprint, and the inspector runs in place, and the environment changes behind him like a slideshow. The short has a clearly minimalist style, where characters are depicted with just a mouth or an eye. In 1962, Mimica made Everyday Chronicle, which is darker and sadder than the previous films, and depicts a soulless mechanized society. It stars a blind man, a dog, and a crowd of dehumanized workers that lack color or individuality and never change their facial expressions. Here, Mimica again uses newspapers and photographs. Mimica continued with dark themes in The Haunting and Creepy Typhoid Sufferers. It's based on a poem and set in World War II. The short has a visual style inspired by woodcuts, and unlike the other films I mentioned, does have narration. Another major director of the era was Dusan Vukotic. In 1957, he made Cowboy Jimmy, a metafictional parody of the Western movie genre, where the title character falls out of the screen at the theater and interacts with a young boy. It contains several Western cliches, like swinging saloon doors and a gunslinger twirling his pistol. Similarly, his short titled Concerto for Submachine Gun parodies gangster films, and a gangster conducts a gun battle between criminals and cops as if it were an orchestra. Realism is ignored as objects pop into existence out of nowhere, cars impossibly drive in crisscrossing paths and are anthropomorphized with faces. Sound waves are visible, and the characters can physically interact with them. Also typical of Zagreb Film, there are sparse backgrounds that are sometimes just a solid color. In The Avenger, Vukotic adapts an Anton Chekhov short story about a man who goes to a gun shop after discovering his wife cheating on him. Characters suddenly pop from one pose to another, a technique commonly used by Zagreb Film. The 1959 short Piccolo, considered to be a metaphor for the Cold War, consists of 2 neighbors fighting over music, trying to outdo each other and getting louder and louder, eventually leading to the destruction of both of their houses. Absurd, impossible events occur, like turning a clock forward to make time go faster, and drinking alcohol to hallucinate an object that becomes real. Vukotic's Cow on the Moon is more for children than the previous few, but fits in with the Zagreb aesthetic by having characters pop between poses in a very flat perspective. Vukotic won an Oscar for his 1961 short Ersatz, the first film produced by a non-American company to do so in the animated short category. Ersatz uses dark humor to satirize consumerism where all objects are fakes. It features sparse backgrounds, pose popping, and geometric characters. The short even inspired the famous Worker and Parasite segment from The Simpsons that spoofed Eastern European animation. Vukotic got nominated for an Oscar again for The Game, a war allegory where children's drawings come to life, and another mixed media work that combines animation with live action. In the bizarre short Ars Gratia Artis, he again combined live action footage with animation. One of the most distinctive directors of this era was Vlado Cristo. His 1960s short The Piece of Shagreen Leather was adapted from Balzac and inspired by Fauvism and Art Deco. It fits in with the prevailing style with sparse environments and the mixed media inclusion of real newspapers. Background characters are extremely abstracted and are at times represented by just a few lines for a face and no body. Cristo's very loose adaptation of Don Quixote was probably the most experimental Zagreb animation of the era. The difficult-to-follow film has geometric characters, an unusual atonal electronic soundtrack, and plenty of pose popping. It also uses live-action footage of windmills and has interesting little touches like the sun being represented by a color wheel. Don Quixote's madness is represented by events like him turning into a record player and then a bunch of sausages. The highly unusual style of the short is often compared to Swiss-German artist Paul Klee or constructivist art. Also, the short depicts military incompetence, so it was seen as being anti-government. In fact, after facing censorship issues, Christel moved to Germany in 1962, where he spent the rest of his life. Also important in the first wave of Zagreb animators was Nikola Kostelac, whose 1957 short Premiere presented very exaggerated unrealistic character designs where people look very thin and stretched out. In On the Meadow, released the same year, two geometric characters fight over a flower, and it turns into a battle with actual military hardware. Kostelac delves into almost abstraction in a scene where repetitive rows of helmets march to militaristic music in front of solid colored backgrounds. His highly stylized, fast-moving short Ring from 1959 deals with boxers. The crowd at the boxing ring is heavily abstracted as a dark mass with red shapes that vaguely resemble people. Also, some of the characters have very thick contour lines that are colored to match their clothing. Director Zlatko Burek, who began his career in the 1960s, was also known for puppetry and live theater, and inspired by art movements like Expressionism, Surrealism, and pop art. His 1961 short The Blacksmith's Apprentice, like a lot of the first wave, has a minimalist style and had very sparse backgrounds and environments with a very flat perspective. Characters are all one color, and plenty of unusual colors are used. The bizarre Dancing Songs from 5 years later was based on traditional folk songs and featured pure white backgrounds at times. Burek's surreal short Schooling is mainly about three birds, but also includes Frankenstein for some reason. There are little quirks like speech bubbles to indicate dialogue, and common Zagreb film qualities like lots of solid colors and blank backgrounds. In The Cat, he turned an Aesop fable into a psychedelic, very colorful short film with mythological references. It includes hypnotic patterns, and characters' hair and clothes constantly change. The Cat is unlike the usual Zagreb film output in that, while it doesn't have traditional dialogue, it does have song lyrics that are important, so it's not as internationally accessible as most of their shorts. Burek's Dinner, from the late 1970s, is another freaky, trippy short, this time with violence. The second wave of new filmmakers is generally considered to have started their careers from roughly 1965 to 1969. One key figure was Borivoj Dovnikovic, who told simple, absurd stories with dark humor. We see all these qualities in Ceremony from 1965. It consists solely of 5 nearly identical-looking men who get posed in various ways before a brick wall, seemingly for a photograph, before getting executed by firing squad. Another simple, absurd short from him was Curiosity, in which people are inexplicably compelled to find out what a man has in his bag. The silly short Krek tells a story of a soldier who insists on having his pet frog with him at all times, much to the consternation of his superior officer. It's yet another example of mixed media with actual photographs. Also including photographs is The Flower Lovers, which presents a story about exploding flowers with a combination of cartoony character designs and more understated backgrounds. In Second Class Passenger, all sorts of absurd events occur during a train trip, and the mixed media theme continues with the inclusion of live-action footage. From the early 80s, Dovnikovich's One Day of Life tells the story of a sad factory worker. It starts out black and white to show the drudgery of his life, then slowly adds some color. Finally, the 1989 short Exciting Love Story has a unique style where the screen is divided up into 8 panels, and at one point the entire frame even shifts 90 degrees. Director Nedeljko Dragic was known for making surreal short films, and his career lasted from the 1960s until the 90s. His 1965 debut Elegy was a simple yet cynical tale of a prisoner who watches a flower outside his window. Dragic got more surreal with Tamer of Wild Horses, which depicts a giant mechanical horse, as well as Maybe Diogenes, where impossible things keep happening, like the main character visiting the Last Supper painting or interacting with giant punctuation marks. His short Passing Days has the typical blank white backgrounds and is about a man who's forced to lead his life the way society wants him to, another example of the theme of individuality versus conformity. Dragic's 1972 Oscar-nominated film Toop Toop has a similar theme. Eventually ending in attempted suicide, the darkly humorous film centers on a man being driven to insanity by a crowded, noisy city. Then he directed a surreal short called The Diary, which is full of constant morphing and transformations, and goes from basic black and white line drawings to dense, intricate, colorful tableaus. There were even parts that reminded me of illustrator Ralph Steadman, known for his collaborations with writer Hunter S. Thompson. His final film before the breakup of Yugoslavia was Pictures from Memory, another surreal short with lots of morphing and transformations. It is very fast editing in parts, violent imagery, and many pop culture references to things such as Casablanca, Mickey Mouse, and Charlie Chaplin, as well as historical references to figures like Stalin and Hitler. Another important director of the second wave was Zlatko Grgic, whose shorts were usually absurd and often a bit dark. His 1964 short A Visit from Space depicts a little girl meeting aliens in a childlike style and has minimalist backgrounds that are almost solid red or blue. Next, he made The Devil's Work, about a man who constantly gets punished for his good deeds, fitting in with the theme of the little guy conflicting with the rest of society. In the fifth one, a group of musicians in front of a nondescript background are incessantly pestered by a tuba player that wants to join in, despite them repeatedly beating him with their instruments. The musical Pig was nominated for the Short Palme d'Or at Cannes, is about a singing pig who people still want to eat despite his talent, and has one of Grgic's darker endings. Grgic's metafictional Cleasy Poozy includes live-action footage of the cartoonist when the animation breaks out into the real world. His final film came in 1979 with Dream Doll. The Oscar-nominated co-production with the UK tells the surreal story of a man who falls in love with a sex doll. The directing duo of Alexander Marx and Vladimir Utrisha were mentored by Vyacheslav Mimica and often included horror themes in their shorts. In their early film The Fly from 1966, a man in a minimalist environment is bothered by a fly who becomes a freakish giant. Even more surreal is Nightmare, where a bed transforms into something resembling a demon, and a man gets bitten in half, then chased by a giant frog. In their 1979 short The Undertaker, the dead come alive, and in their 1983 film Obsession, based on the Edgar Allan Poe story The Black Cat, a man is tormented by a supernatural cat. Ante Zaninovic was yet another director of absurd shorts in the 1960s, like the darkly humorous The Wall. It's a metaphorical parable where a rich man in his suit lets a working-class man kill himself to break through a wall, and then walks through the hole he created. Similarly absurd is Of Holes and Corks, with a man in a futile fight against nature trying to plug holes in the ground. Animator Pavel Stalter directed shorts with a melancholic feel and distinct aesthetic from the rest of Zagreb film. In 1969, he adapted the Poe short story Mask of the Red Death in a creepy, unusual style that combines collage, painting, and drawing. In the bleak short The Last Station, rich people screw themselves over by forcing a rail worker to stop what he was doing because it was making noise, but it turns out what he was doing was necessary for safety, and they all fall to their deaths. The final director of the second wave I'll discuss is Milan Blažeković. His career started in the late 60s, and in 1971 he made The Man Who Had to Sing. The silly short film centers on a person who incessantly sings the same song from birth, despite endless attempts to get him to stop, Yet another story of individualism being stifled by society. His darkly humorous short film called The Collector is also trippy and colorful, with a butterfly covered in pulsating rainbow colors. In the mid-80s, Blažeković directed The Elm-Chanted Forest, the first Yugoslavian animated feature film. It has a much different style than the shorts, with more conventional animation, a traditional narrative with dialogue, and mainstream animation staples like talking animals and magic. Characters are awkwardly named after real people, like J. Edgar Beaver, who neither looks nor acts anything like his namesake J. Edgar Hoover, the first director of the FBI in the United States. The feature film was popular in Yugoslavia, but the English dub didn't do well in the US, which may have been partly due to the inclusion of racist blackface caricatures. The film got a sequel called The Magician's Hat, but this one did not get an English dub and wasn't that popular domestically. The third wave of Zagreb film animators took place in the 1970s. One of the most significant films of the decade was Zdenko Gasparovic's Satie Mania, set to the music of French composer Erik Satie. Like so much of the first two waves, this uses often blank backgrounds, and it's another film with parts that look inspired by Ralph Steadman. Satie Mania has violent imagery, rapid editing, and quickly changes styles and settings. It juxtaposes cultural icons like gangsters and cowboys with surreal elements like a man with a chicken head, and is brimming with transformations and morphing. Director Joško Marušić followed a long line of Croatian animators in making absurd shorts, but had quite a bit of range in terms of tone. He debuted with Inside and Out in 1978. It tells the simple story of a man who invents a pair of wings, only for the camera to pull out and reveal everyone is trapped in a large sphere. It takes place in front of a blank white background with a huge crowd of identical people that are represented by disembodied faces. Shortly after, Marušić directed Fisheye, which had a horror feel. Fish monsters come out of the water and take revenge on humanity, murdering people. Like Mimica's typhoid sufferers, Fisheye is stylized similar to woodcuts. Also in the early 80s was the much more silly and lighthearted Skyscraper. Chaotic and absurd, the title building is teeming with random events, and exists in a minimalist environment. In another short with an absurd premise called I Love You, saying I love you causes an instant explosion. One unique curiosity in the world of Yugoslavian animation is Man the Polluter from 1973. It was a very odd combination of animated vignettes and live-action footage of a professor talking about various societal problems. Almost feature-length at around 50 minutes, Man the Polluter was a co-production with Canada. Segments were directed by several of the previously mentioned directors, including Vukotic, Dragic, and Burek. Some parts are about pollution and environmentalism, but others are basically unrelated. There's silly stuff like humans evolving into dinosaurs, and a guy dressed like a superhero who goes around shooting anyone who makes noise. In one segment, people shrink down in order to make resources more plentiful, several decades before the similarly themed Alexander Payne film Downsizing. Zagreb film began to decline in the 1980s, but there were still creative animators making interesting work. One was Krešimir Zimonjić, who continued the tradition of surrealism in Yugoslavian animation. His first as director was Album from 1983, and used a more realistic style than a lot of Zagreb film, but was still a bit surreal and dreamlike. Even more surreal and absurd was The Match, about a soccer game where nonsensical and impossible things happen, like defenders turning into a brick wall. Zimonjić used a combination of different styles, and the people in the crowd are very vaguely defined and contrast with the more realistically designed players. The match also cuts away to completely unrelated scenes, like a knight in armor fighting a dragon. He then made the very colorful, rapidly paced Butterflies, which contain numerous transformations. In The Circle from 1989, a shape starts out as a simple circle before morphing and transforming and gaining a third dimension. Then it changes into various animals, a clock, a wheel, and eventually a human. The short film starts off black and white and then transitions into color. While Zagreb film mostly focused on short films, they did produce some television series as well. From 1962 to 63, they released 13 episodes of Inspector Mosca, about an American police inspector taking on a criminal gang. Zagreb film's most successful series was Professor Balthazar, which ran for 59 episodes from 1967 to 78. It was created by Zlatko Grgic and incorporated contributions by animators like Zaninovic, Burek, and Boris Kolar. Unlike so many of the shorts from Zagreb Film, this was very lighthearted. Each episode had a happy ending, and there were rarely villains. The titular professor always solves the problem without resorting to violence or sacrificing anyone's happiness. Professor Balthazar aired internationally in other European countries, Asia, and the United States. This series was so popular that there's even a statue of him in Zagreb. While the vast majority of animation in Yugoslavia came out of Zagreb, other areas of the country did produce some animated shorts. Some of the first Slovenian animated shorts were made by Miki Muster, like The Arrow from 1960. The short was similar to Zagreb style with minimalist backgrounds and a lighthearted tone. His next film, The Messenger, was much darker, about a boy who gives partisans information about the Nazis. It was an odd mix of styles where the partisans are drawn in a much more realistic way than the cartoony Nazis they fight. In Macedonia, Petar Gligorovsky directed surreal shorts like the trippy, hard-to-describe Embryo Number M, starring a transforming blob. Also from the 70s is his short titled Atom. It's mixed media using real footage, including some disturbing imagery. There's a constantly changing background, and a clock that references the Doomsday Clock, which is a symbol of how close humanity is to a worldwide catastrophe. Serbian Borislav Sajtenak produced surreal, creepy, and disturbing shorts such as Not Everything That Flies Is a Bird and The Bride. And finally in Bosnia, Midhat Ajanovic made shorts like Goya Munk Lautrec, which spoofs the artwork of the three famous painters. Yugoslavian animators left behind a highly memorable and incredibly varied body of work. While their influence is hard to quantify, I have no doubt they inspired other European animation industries like in the USSR and Hungary. Many animators have been cited as following in their footsteps, with some examples being Terry Gilliam from Monty Python, American filmmaker Bill Plympton, and the makers of late 90s television cartoons like Dexter's Laboratory, Powerpuff Girls, and Samurai Jack. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe. If there are any other countries you'd like me to cover the animation of, let me know in the comments.
貴様、本当の名は何という。ジュゲムジュゲム五行のすり切れカイジャリ水魚の水魚松雲来松風来松クーネルところに住むところやぶら工事のブラ工事パイポパイポパイポのシューリンガンのグーリンダイのポンポコピーポンポコナーの超救命の長介。奇遇だな。私の名もジュゲムジュゲム五行のすり切れカイジャリ水魚の水魚松雲来松風来松クーネルところに住むところやぶら工事ブラ工事パイポパイポのシューリンガンのグーリンダイのポンポコピーのポンポコナーの超救命の長介というのだよ。行くぞジュゲムジュゲム五行のすり切れカイジャリ水魚の水魚松雲来松風来松クーネルところに住むところやぶら工事パイポパイポのシューリンガンのグーリンダイのポンポコピーポンポコナーの超救命の長介。来いジュゲムジュゲム五行のすり切れカイジャリ水魚の水魚松雲来松風来松クーネルところに住むところやぶら工事ブラ工事パイポのシューリンガンのグーリンダイのポンポコピープロは下感だ。
Nennt man das hier Ordnung heißt, merkt man gleich, Frau verreist. So ein Dreck, er muss weg. Wenn das hier die Gnädige sieht, wer weiß, was uns dann blüht. Raus aus dem Dreck. Lieber Max, komme morgen Abend nach Hause. Gruß und Kuss, deine Emmy. Schnell, schnell, schafft Ordnung. Heute kommt die Gnädige. Das wird ein schönes Donnerwetter geben.
Halt! Aufhören! Ich weiß, was da zu holen ist. Ja, ich versuch's noch mal.
Lass das. Warten wir lieber.
Ich freue mich, dass du mich geholt hast.
Aber bei uns sieht es toll aus.
Umso besser. Da werde ich euch mal zeigen, was ich kann.
Hier stelle ich euch Johanna vor.
Kannst du helfen, Johanna?
Gewiss kann ich das.
Kriegst du das raus, Johanna?
Mit Fever macht's Spaß.
Und wenn das Wasser hart ist, wie das hier der Fall.
Bei Fever macht das gar nichts aus. Bei Fever ist es egal. Nimm auf 4 Liter Wasser einen Löffel dazu und fertig ist das Feverbad im Nu.
Donnerwetter, tadellos.
Du bist ja ein ganz blitzsauberes Mädel.
Fabelhaft, Johanna.
Fein auf fein.
Schön.
Mit Fever funkelt alles, durch Fever wird man neu. Wir bleiben darum alle der Johanna ewig treu.
Dass ihr rein und gepflegt seid, hat Fever vollbracht.
Seidenstrümpfe, wollene Kleider, Wäsche zart und fein, Gläser, Tassen, Holz, Teller groß und klein, Badewannen und Gardinen, Sofa, Spiegel, Bank, Fensterscheiben und der Kleiderschrank. Kacheln einerlei, Autos, was es sei, selbst die alte Hauswand wird wie neu.
Alles wäscht die Johanna mit Fever fein auf fein. Darum schwärmt jede Hausfrau für Fever ganz allein. Nur noch Fever, ja Fever, das gibt es überall.
Fever wäscht und pflegt zugleich, denn Fever wäscht neutral.
Enjoy barkada moments with the new Cornetto Apple Crumble Disc.
refreshing and creamy ice cream. Fudgy white.
This is Dr. Hayes, speaking on behalf of the Unity Accords. This message is for designated leadership only. If you're seeing this transmission on its unsecured line, then you shouldn't be hearing this at all. She is soon to arrive. The Queen of the Crowders has breached the outer threshold. Initial contact was made at 4:32 UTC. Parameters we trusted no longer apply. All projections have failed. Every contingency has collapsed, and yet we continue to pretend we have control. We don't. As of this moment, Plan B is initiated. But what does that even mean? There is no infrastructure, no launch sequence, no evacuation procedure, only the bomb. The only thing we built first, before we could even understand what we were building it for. And they're finally doing something right, after that stupid Prototype 42. Being a flashlight will not work. Think it will work. You think it will...
Sir, should you really be saying that on government?
No, listen to me. It won't work. It was never meant to work. You can't erase something that was never truly here. I don't care what the directive says. I don't care what they signed off on. If you press that button, you are ending us all. The Crowders, they don't burn. They don't break. They will stay here until it's over, but we won't. And those still clinging to the idea of a flashlight, let it go. Light will not save you. The Crowders do not fear the dark. They move through it. They become it. If anything, the light will make it easier to find. You will hear voices, familiar voices. They will call you by name. Do not answer. They will ask you if they remember them. You do not. The Unity Accords were meant to ensure a future. Now they may only ensure a clean slate or a grave. This is the last transmission. The next voice you may hear may not be human. Worse, it may be yours.
This is Dr. Quilloy, reporting to all Unity Accords scientific divisions. I am here to address a question that has troubled us for months, perhaps years. Why has the Queen slowed down? Her home planet is 4,000 light years away. The speed required for her to reach our system was inconceivable, and yet she did. By the year 2001, she had already passed Mars. Logically, she should have made an arrival here years ago, and yet here in 2005, and she's yet to make her final approach. We know what she is. We know the Queen is not bound by conventional physics. She is a creature of fluid dimensionality, able to slip between what we perceive as reality, bending, mixing, and molding through space itself. Travel for her is not a straight line. It's adaptation, a correction, a calculation we are simply not equipped to understand. But something else is happening, something we were never meant to see. We know she is slowing down, but we also know she's losing energy. Moving at such speeds, she's not even immune to the cost of momentum. However, depletion is only a part of the equation, because after passing Mars, she did something we failed to predict. She released Crowder eggs, and we already have proof. For the past 2 years, we have incepted images from the Hubble satellite. Images that cannot be publicly shown on video, but they will be disclosed to authorized personnel in person only. These images confirm what we feared. It has begun. It began after she passed Mars. The egg release is not a theory, it is already happening. This is the reason the Unity Accords even exists. Why aren't they doing anything? We need to move to immediate military response, but I fear it will not be enough. There is another matter, one that only demands full attention. The military forces deployed for Earth's protection are now at extreme risk. When these Crowder eggs begin their descent, they will not just impact civilians, they will endanger air defense, military fleets, and global infrastructure. These eggs interact with modern aircraft, weapons, or technology. The result could be catastrophic, or worst case scenario, over 100,000 immediate casualties, probably even more. We estimate these eggs will reach Earth within weeks, maybe even months, and when they do, I call this event the first attack. Our eggs will rain from the sky, and this isn't speculation, it is certainty. The Queen has been preparing for centuries, and we are nearly scrambling in response. What troubles me the most is that we've only observed a few Crowder eggs that have already made it to Earth. These occurrences are 1 in a million. Accidents, anomalies, but they have provided us with insight. When a Crowder egg comes in contact with metal or weaponry, it does not merely attach, but it fuses, morphs, absorbs. The material does not break. It does not shatter. It becomes something else, something alive, something wrong. At this stage, our options are limited. Plan B is our only option. The option no one wanted to consider. I know the X-15, the upgraded X-15, it might not work, but the option wasn't completely eradicated. The bomb is almost done. I have read the records, I have read the theories, I have listened to my colleagues, Dr. Jackson Hayes, and those who come before him, like Marcus. I agree with their assessments. We are not prepared for what is coming, and let me be perfectly clear, flashlights will not save you. The Crowders cannot be warded off with light, and neither can the Queen. It's all so complicated, and yet I keep coming back to the single haunted question. How did it start? How did she know for so long? We have all traced the beginning to the Crowders back in 1986, and that's only half right. The Chernobyl disaster started uranium fungus, and it woke all the mutated uranium, but the first anomalies, the first sightings, that was the moment we believed everything began. But there's a problem, a massive problem. Her home is 4,000 light years away. If she truly started her journey in response to Chernobyl, she would not be arriving out now. She would have not made it here in time. She would have made it thousands of years from now, if not hundreds, which means that she didn't start with Chernobyl. She was already coming, and we don't know why she came. We don't know how she knew, and yet we never will. Because we're gonna blow her into a million pieces. Every fragment, every spore, and every uranium fungus will be gone. Every fungal infestation and every single Crowder will return back to human, back to with us, where nobody can harm them and nobody can harm us. For the good of the world, for the good of us all, and for the good of all mankind.
After recent events, and after a shocking discovery by Dr. Jackson H., it has been confirmed that former Unity Accord scientist Dr. Marcus is, in fact, a Crowder. Once hailed as a key figure in Earth's defense efforts, Dr. Marcus is now a fugitive. He has disappeared, his whereabouts unknown. The United States government has issued an Omega-level pursuit order, designating him an imminent global threat. Entire military forces from multiple nations have been deployed with one objective: to locate and neutralize Marcus, and to make him answer for what he has done to our planet.
and he's coming out today. Now we'll all be happy, hip 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 hooray. The sun has got his hat on and he's coming out today. Now he's coming back.
I hate you. I hate you with a passion. I want you gone from this world, this life, this plane of Yep, that's me, on the verge of losing my mind. Now, I'm known far and wide for keeping my cool, so pushing me to this point is quite an achievement. So, to find out what broke down my stable and salutacious mind, we need to travel back in time, to 1992, and my birth. One cold winter morning in 1992, a child was born to two loving parents in the city of Ingolstadt in Germany. This child was lovingly named David Rosfeld and would go on to make insurmountable mistakes in life, leaving him on a bitter and highly opinionated career path. This child is not me. I was born in 1994 in Sweden to two parents of whom only one of them loved me and the other put me in $4,000 debt with the government. It's been a good life. Now, growing up, I always was the gifted child. I took to learning very quickly, and despite hating studying, I was able to grasp complex concepts with relative ease, and breezed my way through most of my general education. I was smart, I don't know what to tell you, my official IQ is 123. This isn't a brag or anything, I'm on YouTube making videos about nothing. I literally have zero value. But I enjoy what I do, and if anything, I enjoy discussion and active discourse with my peers. Arguing is not a negative concept, it's a demand for truth and a need for understanding. Clashing your views is not about winning or being better than the other, but to cooperatively reach an understanding. And that understanding might be that you're fucking wrong and you're a fucking idiot, and that's fair enough. I am not, and never was, a big fan of Skyward Sword, but my friend enjoys it. So, we argue about it. I present my views on why the game is utter dog shit, and he presents his views on what the game is going for it. And while he is objectively wrong and Skyward Sword is ass, I always enjoy hearing his opinions and views on the matter, and it allows me to better understand his perspective and values. I argue a bunch in the comments of my shorts because people post contradicting opinions from mine. And when I say argue, I don't mean fuck you, you fucking idiot, you don't know what you're talking about! But rather, I take in their opinion and then I counter it with mine, explaining why I divert on certain points and why their opinions and views are misguided. This doesn't mean that I'm objectively correct at all times. In fact, I've gotten several comments where I've gone, wow, that's a point I hadn't considered. And that's because they chose to interact and argue with me in a civilized manner. I enjoy this. What I don't enjoy is some fucking idiot just going, you're a fucking idiot, it's obviously this. Like, go fuck yourself, you have no value in society, go eat your fucking bran flakes. I don't care if you're right at that point. If you're an asshole, I'm not interested in conversing with you. Respect in, respect out. I'm not gonna respect someone who won't respect me in the first place. And I'm not gonna respect annoying assholes like... Alright, the whole reason for this video is this chapter, so here we go. Don't you love it when you're having a conversation about whatever the fuck and someone smugly interrupts and derails you because you worded a phrase poorly? For example, actually, water isn't wet. Wet is a property only dry things can have. Actually, a hot dog is a sandwich. You know, technically we can't ever touch anything because atoms are never touching. Shut the fuck up! Sit down, shut up, and stop being whoever the fuck you think you are! You're butting into the conversation we're having to falsely conjure up this image of your own intelligence, one you're just parroting off of whatever pseudoscience bullshit you heard of last night while your parents were screaming at each other because you grew up in a loveless household and nobody ever wants you around. You're just throwing shit at us, so we'll argue it, and you can prove your massive fucking intelligence. Water isn't wet. Well, it sure as fuck isn't dry! Yes, for
So, British food. If British food had no fans, then I would be dead. And not just from boredom, from the lack of flavour our cuisine has. Well, here's the thing. Hundreds of years ago, the British Empire had a big part to play in the spice trade. And despite this, paprika, I hardly know her. A lot of British classics avoid interesting flavour, but I'm not quite sure why British food is the one thing in particular that is universally laughed at, when basically every culture has at least one slop-esque meal devoid of charm. Have you ever seen Hamburger Helper?
Look at this. Doesn't stop it saying that.
Or Met? Raw pork? Raw pork that is sometimes organised into the shape of a hedgehog? They say that the British eat like the war never ended. And part of the reason why is, despite being simple, it does actually taste good, in my opinion. I can't offer you a spoonful through the screen, but I could try and show you some of my favourite British foods, and while I could show them to you with drawings or photos, maybe instead I could enlist some help and film the food. Gotta buy some British food first though, like beans.
The nasty ones with the sausage. Sausage ones are good. Cheap and nasty. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Biscuits. Cookies.
Jaffa cakes. Do you not want Minecraft Oreos? The square, what's the point?
Sorry, what? Now, I can't use the original audio I recorded here, it was full of copyrighted music in the background. But look at these sacks of 400 tea bags. You can buy sacks that have 1,000 in online. And,
I think I'm genuinely gonna have to censor what that word says, but,
Anyway, let's address these foods in meal order. As well as showing you the food, I want to introduce you to some well-known British restaurants. Across the UK, there are over 800 Wetherspoons branches. They're known for serving cheap food and drinks, having weird carpets, and absolutely loving a microwave. We are at Wetherspoons. One of the magical, wonderful things about Wetherspoons is that you don't have to talk to human beings. You can order on your phone. And a traditional breakfast is £3.69, which is unbelievably cheap. Yeah, it's very cheap. Suspiciously cheap. So, that's what I'm getting. We have toast, sausages, hash browns. Not sure how authentic that is, but we vibe. They're American. Bacon, baked beans, and egg. I mean, I guess more traditionally you'd have something like black pudding. Alas. A fry-up will often contain things like grilled tomatoes, fried mushrooms, or black pudding. But I don't like those vegetables, and black pudding scares me, so... Honestly, I don't care, I'm sorry. Yum. Yum, 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 yum. Except for the egg, actually. Don't... Oh my god, the yolk's gonna explode. No. Okay, that's way better. Bone up the teeth. To me, this is a combination of foods that makes sense, but I can kind of see why it might not. You just gotta trust me on this. It's very good. It's almost as good as...
That doesn't look edible.
Alright, bet. This video is sponsored by Incogni. I bet you love spending time online. So do I. And I bet you love signing up to things online too. So do I.
Dude, get out of my house!
And I bet you love the information you signed up with being sold to other companies. Wait, that's not. Those weird spam emails and calls you get? Yep, that's probably from that happening, and that data being out and about means your privacy and safety may be at risk too. The good news is that you can take it down, the bad news is that it takes hours, if not days or weeks to do so, unless you get some help, like from Incogni. Incogni helps you to protect your privacy and take your personal data off the market by reaching out to data brokers on your behalf, requesting your personal data removal, and dealing with their objections. And let me tell you, you, after months of using Incogni, it's still actively helping me out and my spam folder has never been quieter. And so let me recommend you go to incogni.com/owiebrainhurts and use code owiebrainhurts to get an exclusive offer of 60% off. That's incogni.com/owiebrainhurts and use code owiebrainhurts or click the link below to take your personal data off the market. Okay, let's get back to the video. There's a core ingredient in my favourite British lunches. Bread. This one's a common breakfast choice too. You will need 2 slices of bread, butter, and back bacon. This is the most common bacon in the UK. If you ask for bacon somewhere, you're not going to be given the American-style rashers. Meals and foods involving bacon or sausages will typically be offered with either red or brown sauce. It's kind of like barbecue sauce's emo cousin. Many would say that bacon sandwiches should be made with red sauce, but screw you, this is my sandwich, and I'm gonna cut it across rather than diagonally. Cancel me, I dare you. Brace yourself, we're going into dangerous territory. Toast, butter, and Marmite with Elton John on the front. Marmite, alongside every questionable British food, is a real don't knock it till you try it situation. It's so good with warm butter, and it's kind of nutritious. What we've all been waiting for. More toast, more butter, and... listen to that. That's disgusting. I got beans with hot dogs in because I'm also disgusting. A bit of black pepper, a bit of brown sauce, Bob's your uncle, your nan's a Tory. So, if you had to pick, which one of these would you eat? I genuinely enjoy all of them. Please don't unsubscribe. Do you hear that? It's the tea time alarm, and it's time for a little snack. I'll make us both a tea with my insane arms. You are welcome. And while those brew, let me show you how cute British biscuits are. These are chocolate-covered digestives. They're pretty simple, a little oaty, a reliable choice. Malted milks have little cows on them. Oh my god. They're sweet, a little malty and buttery. You might be familiar with Jammy Dodgers if you enjoy Doctor Who. There is a thick, sticky jam layer inside 2 crumbly, buttery biscuits. Bourbons! I like how the biscuits are often labelled with their own names. Chocolate flavoured inside and out, they are a common favourite. Little tiny Jaffa cakes. Debatably cake rather than biscuit, there's a jelly orange disc inside. My camera's autofocus is crap, but you can kind of see it. Custard creams are a classic. They're a vanilla-y cream sandwich biscuit that is asking to be dunked in tea. And shortbread, which is Scottish, actually. But I really like shortbread and wanted to buy it. They're very buttery. Yum! Yum. What's not to love? Look at this! I think a tea and a biscuit makes everything better. I'm about to show you another British spectacle. This is Toby Carvery. What is a carvery, you may ask? Well, it's a place where you can go to get a classic British roast dinner, also known as a Sunday lunch. Alas, it is Saturday. I am being filmed, recording right now. Okay, they carve the meat for you, hence the word carvery. These are all across the country, and yes, I am a virgin, a Toby virgin. I've never been. I've been to Carvery, I've never been to a Toby. I'm being so perceived right now, and yay! And so in we went. Toby. There were all sorts of meat options, Yorkshire puddings, which are amazing. They're so easy to make and go well with anything, I would recommend, and plenty of side options. So crispy. Ow. Toby's famous gravy. What makes it famous? Oh, in that case, yes please. Yes, I spilt it everywhere. Shut up, I'm clumsy. This pile-up is the perfect mix of meat, vegetables, sauces, and carbohydrates. Look at that. Mine's a bit more, What are you doing? Oh, I've got too much gravy. I made a mistake. My gluttony disgusts me. This is the kind of greed they talk about in the Bible. And at this angle, it looks foul. But trust me, it's so good. Well, now I'm turned on, so... I'm sorry. The vibes in Toby were pretty artificially cozy. There was an owl in a suit for some reason, and there was a bunch of creepy jugs. Sick. I'd show you more food, but honestly, I'm not in a rush to film in public again anytime soon. Okay, that threw me off. That threw me off, dude. This video was a little different. It's not something I intend on doing very often, but it's fun to play with the format sometimes, and I hope you enjoyed it. I upload around once a month or so, I stream pretty regularly, and it would mean a lot if you subscribed. Mwah. See you soon. Bye-bye. What you shouldn't do when filming a video like this and then proceeding to eat all the food is what I did, which is read about all the ways that red meat and processed meat are bad for you. Anyway, time to eat sausages.
Внимание! Редакции нужен опытный и решительный специалист для операции «Ай-Кей».
Специалист по вопросам любви в России.
Не нужен. Следующий.
Специалист по заготовке медвежьего мяса.
Ах, не то. Следующий.
Великолепный знаток русских икон 12-го столетия и дегустатор черной икры.
К черту. Следующий.
Специальность. Наводить тень на плетень.
Что?
Наводить тень на плетень.
Окей. Пошлите на медицинский осмотр. Окей. На медосмотр.
скетч 30 лет, честолюбие 300, энергии 120, совесть около нуля.
В Москву, фото, очерк, репортаж, сразить, уличить, разоблачить. Тема? Тема?
Фидель Кастро, замаскированный китаец, родной внук Мао Цзэдуна.
Дура! Тема для Москвы.
Провал семилетки.
Справишься, $5000.
Закройте, дует.
Полны мои кассеты, и есть запас чернил, чтоб я в своей газете полсвета очернил. Я Бобби Скетч, стреляю каждой фразой. Я Бобби Скетч, язык как сталь остер. Синий любой военной базы, заокеанский репортер, заокеанский репортер.
Говорит Москва. С добрым утром, товарищи! Уважаемые леди и джентльмены, посмотрите налево. Перед вами выдающийся памятник русской старины, знаменитый московский Кремль. В XIV веке при Иване Калите были построены стены из дубовых бревен шириной в отрубе более полуметра. Каменный Кремль был заложен при князе Дмитрии Ивановиче. Фундаменты цоколь каменного пояса были сложены из белого камня. Храм Василия Блаженного, в прошлом Покровский собор, воздвигнутый в середине XVI века при Иване IV, является величайшим произведением национальной архитектуры. А сейчас, леди и джентльмены, посмотрите направо. Здесь вы видите современную Москву. Город строится и хорошеет с каждым днем.
Сенсация, сенсация. Грандиозная забастовка. Половина московского транспорта работает без кондукторов.
Молодчина, Боб!
Бастующие требуют свободной торговли и ковбойских фильмов.
Издать экстренный выпуск.
Интересно. Жевательная резинка есть? Так.
Пожалуйста. Вот, могу предложить только это.
Спасибо.
Боб Скетч установил, русским нечего жевать.
Поместить сообщение на первых страницах всех газет.
Ай-яй-яй. В Москве нет жевательной резинки.
Заткнись, пустая консервная банка. Конечно, нужны солидные факты.
Передать Бобу, я удваиваю вознаграждение. Но нужны яркие факты. Ясно?
Слушаюсь.
Вас понял. Стрекороба Корпорейшн показывает типичную московскую архитектуру. Перед вами московские черемушки, юго-западный район столицы. Слева от этого монументального сооружения вы легко можете обнаружить краны, предназначенные для реставрации этого здания. Москвичи полагают, что после тщательной покраски этот дом простоит еще добрую 100 лет. Батюшки! Батюшки! Ну, это все неинтересно и никому не нужно. А вот заглянем-ка лучше в сибирскую тайгу.
Начинаю затопление водохранилища! Начинаю затопление водохранилища!
Вот что находится там, где строится братский ГЭС. На самом деле Россия освещается пока что лучиной.
Браво, Боб! Браво! Боб, на высокое напряжение! Переключайся на целину!
Гражданин турист, приехали. Дальше поезд не пойдет. Целина.
Целина? Ага. Целина. А где же целина? Ничего нет. Ха. Целина — это выдумка, пропаганда. На самом деле пустое место. Что это? Что такое? Что это? Все понял! Все понял! Целина — это замаскированная военная база! Я Боб Скетч! Меня окружают русские танки! Коварные русские хотят избавиться от опасного свидетеля! Ваш корреспондент, ваш репортер погибает!
Погиб.
Засыпался! Бездарность! Ну кто же мне теперь сфотографирует русское секретное оружие? А? Алло! Алло! Ваш репортер Боб Скетч еще жив! Алло! Тише ты! Я проник в московский Кремль. Я обнаружил колоссальную пушку в самом Кремле и развернута на запад. Ядра? О, это ядерное оружие!
Леди и джентльмены, а теперь перед вами так называемая царь-пушка. Отлитая мастером Андреем Чохлом в 1586 году. Ее длина 5 метров 34 сантиметра, калибр ствола 89 сантиметров, вес 40 тонн. Она никогда не стреляла. Однако, если бы понадобилось...
outside Janadenhutton, Ohio, March 6, 1782. While out looking for a stray horse, a young man named Joseph Shibosh comes across an unexpected sight. A group of drenched men, strangers, have just swum across the river, and they're armed. Recognizing them as Pennsylvanian militia, no friend of native people, Shibosh turns to run back to Janadenhutton. He has to warn his friends and family. A musket ball shatters Shibosh's arm. Moaning, he drags himself into the bushes, but the militia drag him back out. Shibosh pleads for his life, saying he was just looking for his horse. He also tells them that he's part white. His father is a preacher who ministers to the native village.